Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today I have February's reading plans, TBR, books I want to get to, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I want to mention is actually the book for the Rake Appreciation Society, which is the book club that I host with Jen from the Book Refuge. This is our historical romance book club, and I'm very excited about this book because it's one of Jen's favorites, and it's one that I've been wanting to read for a long time, and it is Annie's Song by Katherine Anderson. I know this is one of Jen's favorites. I know this is pretty much universally well-loved, but I also know it's pretty hard-hitting, very emotional, but I'm very excited about this. Our live show for this will be, let me grab my notes, February 10th at 6 p.m. MST, 7 p.m. CDT right here on my channel. So, next Thursday. Okay, now I have some arcs that I need to read or that I want to read that are coming up. These are books that are going to be released in February or March, and let's go ahead and go through those. So the first one is actually Forged in Fire. This one actually released on February 1st. So this is a demon fantasy romance by Juliet Cross. I adore Juliet Cross. I love her Stay a Spell series. I did not get to this in time for the release, but I still do intend to read it for sure. I love her writing. I think that she is a fantastic author, so I am very excited about this one. I know that this is her first book, and I believe that this is like a reissue of it, so it's not like a new book of hers. It was her first book that I think that she updated maybe and is re-releasing it, so very excited about that one. Another book that I have to read that comes out in February is The Good Girl's Guide to Rakes by Ava Leigh. This is a book that I have been very much anticipating for a really long time. This one comes out February 22nd. This is a historical romance. I believe this is the first in her new series. It's called Last Chance Scoundrels. I actually have already started this and I'm really enjoying it so far. So very excited about this one. And another arc that I have, this one comes out in March actually. This is How to Be a Wallflower by Eloisa James. This is the beginning of a new series, but this one also has, I've heard Eloisa say that it has some mentions or something to do with My American Duchess, which was actually another Rake Appreciation Society book club pick, so I love this cover. I love Eloisa James. Very, very, very excited to have a chance to read this arc. This one doesn't come out until March 29th, but I wanted to try and get a jump start on it and get it read in February so I can get ahead of these arcs and make sure my reviews are out by the time they release. So, very excited about this one. And the last arc that I have to read is actually another book that comes out in March, but this one comes out March 1st, and it is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is a contemporary romance. I believe this is the second book in her series. The first one, it happened one summer, so I'm pretty sure these are like interconnected standalone type of things, but I'm excited about this one. I've heard a lot of buzz about it, so crossing my fingers that I really enjoy this one too. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the other books that I want to read. So one of the books that I want to read is called A Risque Engagement. This is by Stephanie Nicole Norris. So at the very end of January, I picked up an audiobook that I had grabbed when Audible had their $5 sale. It was called No Holds Barred by the same author. It was the first in the series. It was a black romance by a black author, and I really, really liked it, like, a lot. It wasn't perfect. There were a few, it was full of, like, tropes that we commonly see, but I felt like her writing was very fresh, and it really flowed beautifully, and I felt like the couple had great chemistry, and I just really enjoyed it, so I wanted to continue on in the series. This book is on AnyPlay. It's an audiobook. The main reason that I picked up this series is because I really loved the cover of the first book, and it's narrated by Jacoby Diem, who narrates Grip by Kennedy Ryan and Real by Kennedy Ryan, and I think Hookshot too. So he's one of my favorite narrators. I saw his name connected with this book and I was like, well, we're just gonna have to have that. So I really liked it, and I'm very excited to continue reading this series. I don't really know exactly what this book is about. All I know is that this is I think that all of these are about the main character, the hero in the first book. He has a lot of brothers, and so I think it's all of their romances, but they're all contemporary black romances, and I'm excited about it. Okay, another book that I want to continue on in a series that is contemporary is Dotted Lines by Devney Perry. This is the last book in her Runaway series. The first one is Runaway Road. It's all about this series is really small town romances, contemporary romances with characters who had troubled childhoods or youth, like teenage years, and they all sort of banded together in basically like a junkyard and like lived together through their teenage years, grew up together by themselves with no adults. So then they go as adults to, you know, live their lives, and in some way they all end up coming back together. So I've really enjoyed this series. Not all of these are, you know, like I don't even know that I've had a 5-star read in this series, but it's a series that I read when I just want something sort of comforting. I know what I'm going to get from Devney Perry. I really love her writing style. I think that she tells excellent small town romances. So this is the last book in the series, and I'm excited about it. So that one is on my TBR. Another book that I want to read, this is the first book in a series. I have the second book in this series, and I've been meaning to read it for a long time. And then I saw Key from Just Key do a TikTok featuring this author's books, and I was like, I forgot all about that, and I want to read that. So the first book in the series is Forbidden Promises. This is a contemporary romance series by Cynthia Williams, and really all that I know about this is that it sounds like, okay, let me pull up the blurb, because there is something super interesting about this setup. Okay, so yeah, this one is definitely forbidden. This is, okay, the heroine is going back to visit her family. Her brother needs help with his high-profile political campaign. The heroine has no choice but to stay and face the one man she's been running from for years, Travis, her sister's ex-husband. So, it sounds like they had one night years ago before he was married to her sister. They had like this unforgettable kiss, and now that he's like divorced, he's free, but like the taboo element of it's her sister's ex, like I don't know, I think it sounds good. I think the cover is really beautiful, and this is an author that I've been wanting to try for a long time. The audio is on any place, so I'm excited about that one. Okay, and the last contemporary that I want to read for February is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. So this is actually the book that Sam and Tori have picked for their new book club. They're doing a romance book club every month, and I wanted to participate in that with them. And honestly, I haven't read Colleen Hoover for a long time. I think the last book of hers that I read was Verity, which is her thriller, when that was released, because I was hearing so much buzz about it. And honestly, I really loved that. I thought it was an excellent thriller. It's not a romance, but it was a fantastic thriller, I thought. I really liked it. But I actually first found Colleen Hoover like many, many years ago when New Adult was brand new. She was one of the first authors that I found, and I just ate up her books. Like all of those new ones, like Slammed and Hopeless, like not new ones, old ones, you know, all of her old original published books. Like I just ate her books up because they were just so angsty, and I don't know, man. It was like New Adult was a new thing, and I was like, yes, these are the books that I have been looking for. So, however, I have not really read anything of hers in recent years. Not anything at all. So, I am a little hesitant to read this because I know not everyone has loved it, but I want to support Sam and Tori and be in their live show, but I also am kind of interested to give her a try and see what her new book hits like for me. So, gonna try and read that one. Okay, so now in February there is this month-long readathon called Faro Feb to read fantasy romance all through February. This is put together by Harriet Moore. She's a UK author, and I love fantasy romance, and so I thought I would just participate if I can here and there. I'm not going to do like a dedicated TBR to them. I'm not really following any of the prompts. I'm just picking some fantasy romance books that I've been wanting to get to and adding them to my TBR. So the first book that I definitely want to read for that is The Golden Dynasty by Kristen Ashley. I've been hearing so many good things about this book for a very long time, and now is finally the time to read it. The only thing I really know about this fantasy romance, Kristen Ashley, who I'm very excited to read from, and also that it's basically sort of like a Khal Drogo, Khaleesi type of romance, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's got that Game of Thrones, but like with the HEA. I don't know, that type of fantasy. So I'm excited about that one. Another book that I actually started last year that I am like, okay, now is the time to finish this puppy, and it is Kushiel's Dart. This is a very chunky, like it doesn't look chunky, but I think that's because like these pages have so many like words. They're just full of words, like the print is very small. But this is a fantasy I don't know if I honestly I don't know if this is technically a fantasy romance or if it's a fantasy with romantic elements, but I do know this is a darker fantasy, that it has some elements, I believe, of BDSM. This is one of Pam Godwin's favorite books, and it was formative to her writing, so I'm very interested in it for that reason. And it's been on like the back of my radar for many years, but I've always sort of felt like, I don't know, it's very intimidating because it's so long, and I don't know, but I have the audio, so that should help me. Definitely, my goal is to read this book this month. So, I'm already like, I don't actually know how far I'm about this far in. I'm on chapter 14. So, that's how it's going. Okay, and another fantasy romance book that I have, and again, I feel like this one I feel like is more a fantasy with romantic elements, which makes me a little nervous, but this is another book that has been on my radar for many years, and it is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. I first heard of this book when, is it Thoughts on Tomes? Sam, she reads a lot of fantasy. I love her fantasy recommendations, and she recommended this book, and she specifically recommended it for the romance. I've been watching her for years, and I bought it when she recommended it, and then I just never got to it. So I'm very excited to read this. I believe this is like, I think they call it like a desert fantasy. I think it's set in somewhere in like Middle Eastern type of, or having that type of setting in the background. Maybe it's like a reimagined type similar to that, but I don't know, man. That's all I really know, and I just am kind of craving some richer, deeper fantasy worlds, so I feel like that's why I put these two on here, is because I'm like, give it to me, give me the legit fantasy that is more than just like an urban fantasy, you know, because I've read a lot of those recently and I've loved them, but those two, I'm hoping that they scratch that itch and that they're fantastic. I hope they are. We'll see. Okay, two more fantasy romance books that I really want to get to. One is Fireheart by Emma Hamm. I really love Emma Hamm's books. I think that she is an excellent fantasy romance writer. One of her books, Heart of the Fae, is one of my favorite fantasy romances. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling with like a Celtic mythology twist, which I really loved. So she has a new release that just barely came out like Monday, and it was called Fireheart, and I believe this has dragons. I mean, there's a dragon on the cover. Dragon fantasy romance. It's a beautiful cover. So that's all I know, but I really want to read it. It's brand new release. Very excited. Okay, the last fantasy romance that I have, which I'm sure everybody else is very excited about, is House of Earth. No, not House of Earth. House of Sky and Breath. The second book in the House of Earth and in the Crescent City series, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. That was a lot of words. So, when this book was released, I had just barely finished reading Throne of Glass for the first time, which remains one of my favorite series. I love that series. I don't care that it's YA. I think that it's so fantastically done. I adore that series so much. I am a huge Sarah J. Maas fan. I've been reading her since 2017. She's fantastic. I just love her. I believe I gave A House of Earth and Blood 4 stars. It's not one of my favorites of hers, but I felt like I really loved the world she was building there. It was very creative, very unique, and I just really adore her writing. So, of course, I'm going to have this book on my TBR, and hopefully definitely read it when it comes out. So, excited about that one. Okay, and then the last books that I have to talk about, I have two books that were on my TBR for books that you all had recommended for me. So the ones I picked for February are The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics, which is a sapphic historical romance. Very excited about this one. And then Reckless by Amanda Quick, which is sort of an old school, not sort of, it's an older school historical romance. Beautiful step back, as you can see. And very excited to read this one too. So these are the two books that I am definitely going to read for February to stay on track with my reading books you all recommended to me. And then lastly, I have 3 books on this TBR, but I'm definitely going to plan to read more. These are just the series that I want to focus on for this author. So Jen from the Book Refuge will be having an author interview with Jennifer Ashley, who wrote The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, which is one of my favorite historical romances ever. I love that book so much. I never actually continued on in that series though, so I'm going to be going back to that and reading, this is the second book, Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage, and just continuing on in the series as many as possible. I think there's like 11 or 12 books in it. It's a very long series, so I'm going to be reading a lot of these. Very excited about that. But she also has some other series too. So one of them is a paranormal romance that has like lion shifters or shifters in general. I'm not sure what other kinds, maybe tigers and things like that. But the first book is called Pride Mates, and this one is about lion shifters. So very excited about that one. I've heard Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers talking about that. Very exciting. I know me and Lacey and I think Tori are going to be on the interview with Jen, so I'm going to try and read as many of Jennifer Ashley's books as I possibly can to get ready for that interview because I'm very excited about that. And then another book of Jennifer Ashley's I want to read is actually a mystery of hers, but I think it's like in a Regency type setting or a historical setting like that. And this one is called Death Below Stairs. So I honestly love mysteries. I always love mystery elements when they're added to romance, and I haven't read just a straight up mystery in a very long time. I'm not sure if this will have romantic elements. I imagine it probably will, but I'm excited about that. So those are the books that I want to read from Jennifer Ashley, those series, maybe more. I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, there you have it. Those are the books that I want to read for February. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you really want to read in February. And if you've made it this far, feel free to leave me a sunshine emoji because I think we could all use a little bit of sunshine. Thanks so much, my friends. I'll see you all in my next video.